Honourable Speaker. I rise today to welcome the update provided to the House by the Minister for Health. However, on behalf of the families who have contacted me, I must also offer some reflections in reply. While the government has acknowledged what has occurred and the hurt it has caused the families and friends involved, what is not yet fully understood or recognised is that many of the deceased passed away in deeply tragic and traumatic circumstances. While all deaths are unfortunate, coroners only become involved when the death is unexpected, unexplained, or where the state or an individual may have contributed to the circumstances of that death. I've been rendered speechless by the harrowing stories shared with me by affected families, stories of loss, trauma and lifelong grief caused by those deaths. For many, the wounds left by those deaths have never fully healed, and for some, the state itself was responsible for the failings that contributed to their loved one's death. To be wronged by the state decades later is almost inconceivable. These revelations have re-traumatised these families, bringing with it the sleepless nights, grief, anguish and a sense of torment, as if they had not suffered enough already. Adding to their pain, many families first learned of these revelations through a full-page newspaper advertisement. You have acknowledged that the display of the remains in the R.A Rodda Museum disregarded the cultural beliefs of the individuals and communities, yet after these revelations came to light, the government ignored certain families' cultural beliefs when decisions were made how to dispose of the remains. Honourable Speaker, these families have every right to demand answers about this dreadful situation. How could it have happened? Who was responsible? Who knew? Why did it continue for so long? Why did the state take so long to act and even longer to tell the families? And why were requests from families for burial or return of the remains ignored? I want to acknowledge the member for Nelson in the other place for her early and tireless advocacy on behalf of many of these families. Yet even her efforts were met with initial silence from the government. Honourable Speaker, that silence forced families to go to other MPs like me, to the media, to statutory bodies, even to federal representatives, simply to have someone listen, to have someone acknowledge their pain and try to obtain the answers they deserved. The coroner's findings in September provided some answers but raised many more questions, questions families have put to the coroner's office and the Attorney General's office, questions for which they had received no response until today. When you understand what these families have endured, the initial silence from the government was not merely frustrating, it was deeply hurtful. For some, it reinforced the belief that something was being covered up. Families have told me they felt disrespected, disregarded and ignored after everything they had already suffered. And this has understandably made many of them angry. This is why I've continued to raise this matter in every parliamentary sitting since it was brought to my attention, why I've written to the Attorney General and why I've pursued these issues during budget estimates. Here we are now, almost a year since families were notified via newspaper notice of this profound failure by the state. The Minister is providing families with an update. It should not have taken this long. To the Minister of Health, I thank you for taking the time to provide this information today. Your indication that a formal apology is forthcoming is welcome. I hope the government will enable impacted family members to attend the apology at no expense to those families. I urge the Minister and the Department, when engaging with the families, take the time to understand the unique and deeply personal impact this has had on every family involved. Let them finally be heard and give them answers to the questions they have. They deserve at least that. Otherwise, an apology without listening, without understanding and without answers will be seen as little more than an empty gesture. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.